Welcome to Ontology Talk. I'm Adam Pease, and today I'm going to talk about instances, sets, and classes. And rather than speak in just general terms, I'm going to tell you how to formalize some of the examples with these notions in SUMO. So let's take a look at the first example. So we had several instances of the class human. Now the class human in SUMO is defined, and you can take a look at the axioms online at ontologyportal.org. So human is a cognitive agent, a hominid. Many other relations hold true for a human being. You can just take a look at these axioms yourself. I want to show you now how to represent these items. So we started off with three humans, John, Mary, and Stanley, let's call them. So let's say it's an instance of John. We'll just call him John 1 to say it's a very specific individual with that name. We'll say there's Mary 1 is a human, and Stanley 1 is a human. Just to show you how to represent their names to keep them clear. So let's say there's John 1 has the name John. So pretty simple stuff so far. Then I mentioned the notion of sets. So sets have members. So let's say there's a particular set, let's call it set John, Mary, Stan as an instance of the class set. And then sets have elements. So this particular set is a member John 1, set John, Mary, Stan. We'll fix that typo in just a moment up here. Okay. We also mentioned the notion of very specific class of humans. So let's just define that similar very specific class of human. So we'll say subclass Oshkosh human. And then we'll say if we have an instance of Oshkosh human, then that human was born in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Now we need to find the appropriate relation to use here, and it's not born in, it is, I think, birthplace. Let's try that. Okay, here it is. It's a relationship between an animal and an object. So we'll return here and use that. Birthplace of X is Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Okay, so now we've just defined this very specific class of human, and we're actually not making any commitment that there exists any such human. We're merely saying if there is a human that is a member of that class, then necessarily their birthplace was Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So very different than saying there was a particular human born in that place. Next, we went on to talk about processes. So a lecture that has specific parts. So we can say that instance, let's say we used Richard Feynman as an example. Feynman lecture 1, let's call it, is a lecture. I can fix that later if lecture is not the right term, but just in the interest of time, I'll assume that's correct. And then let's say that we also have an acknowledging. Let's call that Feynman's thanking Bohr. And so that would be a thanking, I believe. We can also check on that later. And then we'll say subprocess of Feynman thanking Bohr. That's the subprocess. That's the superprocess. Okay, so not a subclass, but it's a subprocess. It's a part of this temporal event. Now we mentioned bacteria. So let's say we have a subclass of, let's just call it strep, so I don't have to type all that out. It's a kind of bacteria, whereas a particular bacteria, let's call this strep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is an instance of strep, and that's an individual tiny bacterium, not strep itself. I've seen that error made on more than one occasion. And lastly, let's look at water. So I think you can kind of guess right now. We might have water 1 as an instance of water. Maybe that we also have an instance of a container. It's actually a fluid container. And that this instance of water 1 is contained in the fluid container glass 1. Okay, so this was just a quick video to show you how we actually represent these concepts in SUMO. They're not just philosophical abstractions, they're actually part of a computable language with a defined language, a tool set, and an existing set of not just terminology, but also logical definitions for these things. So I'd encourage you to take a look at some of these notions online, and eager to answer questions if you had them. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please like and subscribe, and check out the main website at ontologyportal.org, where you can also buy a copy of my book if that's of interest. Thanks very much for watching.